Welcome to the right angle. You know, when it comes to politics, coalition building is very, very important. You have to take in middle rivals. You have to sort of maneuver past things that have been said in order for you to win. Maybe your top rival has who lost the election or primary to you said some things that were not of the best accord, but you guys get together for the greater good. So we all heard, we have news. Just yesterday, Nikki Haley has just endorsed Donald Trump. And, this is very important. Not only important that the endorsement has come here, but it's also important to understand how we got to this place and why this endorsement, unlike so many others, actually matters.
The world is on fire, literally. You've got a war in Europe. You've got a war in the Middle East. You've got North Korea testing intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of hitting the U.S. You've got China on the march. He's done nothing.
No new wars. I'm done with the military-industrial complex.
None of us want new wars. None of us want new wars.
Where's your money coming from? Reid Hoffman will link in. Do we know where your money's going from, Nikki? We don't. And we're sick of the wars. We want America first.
See, most in the America First crowd really believe that Nikki is a product of MIC or was a product, but probably is still. And the MIC is the military industrial complex, right? But that doesn't really mean that, if she wasn't, they were going to vote for her in the first place. I mean, come on. Donald Trump is on the ballot, and we know what that means. But unlike Scott, unlike DeSantis, Ramaswamy, Burgum, Haley stayed in the race, and she stayed in the race way too long. She stayed in the race even though, there was no chance that she would ever win. And after that Super Tuesday, she had no choice but to drop out of the race.
I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in. Our national debt will eventually crush our economy. A smaller federal government is not only necessary for our freedom, it is necessary for our survival. The road to socialism is the road to ruin for America. Our Congress is dysfunctional and only getting worse. It is filled with followers, not leaders. Term limits for Washington politicians are needed now more than ever. Our world is on fire because of America's retreat. Standing by our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan is a moral imperative. But it's also more than that. If we retreat further, there will be more war, not less. As important, while we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American.
Now, keep in mind that she really didn't have a shot. I mean, not a 20% shot, not a 15%, maybe 5%, but that's as much as I give her. And yeah, there were some voters who were, truly looking for a change. You had a lot of the sort of more centrist-minded Republican voters that were looking kind of for a change away from Donald Trump, and I think that's a legitimate sort of data there. But a lot of the votes she was getting were really just more from Democrats who were kind of crossing over in primaries. So they were participating in Republican primaries, and they were doing this in many places, like in New Hampshire.
And now for sort of the opposite, in my opinion. As you know, Nikki Haley, in particular, is counting on the Democrats and liberals to infiltrate your Republican primary. You know that. That's what's happening. You have a group of people coming in that are not Republicans, and It's artificially boosting her numbers here, although we're still leading her by a lot. As you know, I watched her speech last night. I thought it was inappropriate, but because it's bad for unity, it's bad for the party, what she said. But you'd almost think she won. She came in third, and she lost to not a particularly great candidate, obviously, as you've seen. She lost to somebody that beat her by about 2.5 points, Ron DeSanctimonious. So I'll tell you, we have these two people. We really got to get back on to Biden and beating the Democrats and not wasting a lot of time with these two.
And Democrats have been participating in Republican primaries forever. And this is not a new thing. So, keep that in mind. This has happened in the past, and it's happened all throughout the 2024 primaries, especially when you consider the Nikki Haley effect. So, the fact that this has happened so many times where they try to get these rhinos in there based on the district, or they try to get mega in there, mega folks where maybe they have a lot of baggage or they're just not the right candidate for the region. So just keep in mind, remember, Democrats will do anything for power. We saw that play out in 2020. So the fact that Nikki, after all that bad blood, came out and pretty much endorsed Trump, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing for party unity. I think it's a good thing for focus, and we can focus on the true task, which is the Biden regime. But let's take a look at Nikki's endorsement and see the courage on display.
So when I listened to your speech, it had a natural symmetry to it. And to be a bit reductionist, you opened with some comments on the administration and the Democratic Party. You then talked a little bit about some of the shortcomings or worries you have about the Republican Party. And I couldn't help but think of two names when I heard you deliver that speech, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So on these issues, these national security critical issues that you've described today, who do you think would do a better job in the White House, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
As a voter, I put my priorities on a president who's going to have the backs of our allies and hold our enemies to account, who would secure the border, no more excuses, a president who would support capitalism and freedom, a president who understands we need less debt, not more debt. Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe. So I will be voting for Trump. Having said that, I stand by what I said in my suspension speech. Trump would be smart to reach out to the millions of people who voted for me and continue to support me, and not assume that they're just going to be with him. And I genuinely hope he does that.
So we've gone through sort of why we are here, right? Or at least why the weight of this endorsement matters so much, when often, endorsements doesn't really swing the needle too much. We went through the bad blood, we went through the endorsement, we went through why this matters. So I think what we have to ask ourselves now is, what is the question? I think the question here is, how does this play out on the unity front for the Republican Party? Look, we understand Trump is Trump. He says what he likes. That's why people are attracted to him. That and his record. That's why some people are not attracted to him. You have people that will never be. And I understand that. I understand that way of communication is a double-edged sword. But look at the world, right? See what's around us, right? We see it burning. Just like Nikki said, and ask yourself, do I want that guy with a great record but mean tweets, or do I want that guy who has proven he'll destroy all norms and further plunge us into the abyss just for power, right? Unity is not easy. Unity is work, it's sacrifice. In this world, unity can be sometimes a dream, or at least a far off goal. But, in this instance, we have opportunity to do more with this endorsement. Thanks to Haley, Republicans have one less thing to really worry about. And I'm sure she's lost a lot of opportunity here, one of those things obviously being the dream of becoming POTUS one day. She's at least ceased that or paused that for now. But she still had the courage to step up and put her country over self. I mean, if you're looking for examples of what that means, this endorsement with all that bad blood is putting country over self. And that's a trait that's lacking in most of the political landscape and really most of the citizenry. So I, for one, can applaud that. And I think unity is on everyone's mind. I think even Joe Biden has something to say about it.
And turn this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelect. We cannot win this reelection. We can only reelect Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, I guess let's do what the man said. Let's go ahead and reelect Donald Trump. Wow. Anyway, thanks for joining me today on The Right Angle. And remember, stay curious, ask questions, think critically, and you will find the truth.